Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone. I got a brand new video for you. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. If you're new to the channel, it's your first time here, you have not, as of yet, seen any of my lineup advice videos. The only thing you need to do to be a part of the community here and be able to get this content on a consistent basis is to become a subscriber. So please make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you put on your post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of my future lineup advice videos. With that being said, today is Thursday, February the 28th, 2019. We have a 6-game slate in the association. Let's get right to it. A little bit of news just prior to me getting on here over the last hour. A couple of players are going to be out today. So that opens up the doors for a few things. Obviously, we know Joel Embiid is still out as we look at the top dogs here. Paul George, let me just refresh this, but I think Paul George is definitely out. I got the word that he's going to be out today. Some issue with the shoulder or something like that. Let's let this reboot here for a moment. Yeah, you see he is out now. All right, so again, so at the top here, we got Harden, we got Westbrook, we got Paul George is going to be out. Karl Anthony Towns, Jokic, excuse me. And then you got Embiid that's still out. You got Vucevic and Gobert. These are the top dogs here from Vucevic up. I do think I will have a little bit exposure to Vucevic in his Golden State game. I do like him there. I think Karl Anthony Towns is in a good spot as well with Indy if you wanted to go there. I definitely love Russell Westbrook here a whole lot with Paul George out. I mean, obviously he's going to have the ball on his hands a ton. He's going to need to do a lot today, so he's definitely going to be the best play now at 11,600. So Westbrook is in play. Harden is someone you can consider here as well, but I definitely love Westbrook a whole lot more. I had Westbrook coming in here today as my favorite play. Even though he did not come through for me the other night, I was going to be willing to go right back to the well with him today. And now just recently the news that Paul George is out obviously opens up the doors for Russell Westbrook. So I definitely love Russell Westbrook. Let's go to the point guard position. Russell Westbrook is my play. The one guy that I definitely do like here today. At 11,006, you got to consider him. He's averaging pretty much 35-plus minutes per game on average as of late. In the last few games, 7 out of his last 9 games, as you can see here, he's been pretty much putting up about 55, 56 fantasy points or better. You know, he's had also during that stretch 5 triple-doubles, and he has had 8 double-doubles. So he's been really, really busy, and tonight is going to be one of those days that he's going to more than likely need. He's going to have to rebound. He's pretty much like the second leading rebounder on the team, or the leading rebounder on the team. He's going to need to continue to do that today as well. So I definitely love him a whole lot here today. His usage rate is still fantastic, over 32% as of late. He's still taking 22 to 23 shots a game. He's going to get definitely a bump in usage. Usually when Paul George is out or vice versa, these guys get a usage rate bump of about 6 or 7%. So I could expect him to obviously take maybe more closer to 30 shots today. So he is definitely someone you got to consider. He's averaging 9 to 10 threes a game. That's going to definitely go up as well. So just plain and simple, he is definitely in a smash situation here today unless he just does not shoot the ball very well today or turns over the ball or, God forbid, gets injured. But Russell Westbrook in play, man. He's definitely hands down in here. Philadelphia, he has played 1 game against Philly this year, and he shot poorly in that game. He absolutely shot, terribly in that game. He shot 8 of 21 in that game, 38% field goal percentage. He shot 6 threes, only hit 1 of them for 16%. Did have 21 points from the floor and 44 fantasy points overall. He fouled out in that game. That was another issue. He was also in foul trouble throughout the game. Still, nonetheless, still put up 21 points from the floor, but just not enough to really smash as far as value. But he's going to be in a smash situation tonight. I definitely like Russell Westbrook. That's an option for you guys there. 11-6. I think he's someone you can consider. On DK, I believe he's about $800 or $900 cheaper. Other than Westbrook, if you're not going to be on Russell Westbrook, we just also found out within the hour that Kevin Durant is going to be sitting for rest. And I was leaning on Kevin Durant as possibly someone that I would consider at small forward today because I really didn't like the small forwards in today's slate. But now with him out, obviously you got to have some consideration for Steph Curry. He is literally like $2,300 cheaper. $2,300 cheaper than Russell Westbrook in a smash situation as well. Usually for Steph Curry, when KD is out, him and Klay Thompson, looking at them really quickly before starting the video, they get an enormous amount of a boost and bump in usage. Steph Curry on average 7.5% more usage when KD is off the floor. So you're going to have some consideration for Steph Curry. I know I will. He hasn't hit 45 in the last 2 games, which is pretty much his average. So he hasn't hit his average. But nonetheless, man, we know he has 50, 60-point upside, and he did 49 or better in 2 out of the last 4 games. So, I mean, this is just a smash situation for him. The minutes will be up. His usage rate will definitely be up at least another 7% easily today. Expect him to take tons of shots. He is in a situation here. Orlando is a pretty tough team defensively all across the board. They they can be very, very tough. They have been one of the better teams as of late playing as a unit until my Knickerbockers beat them the other day. But they've been fairly good. I think Steph Curry, again, is just in a good spot here to really do well. Orlando is 12th in defending point guards. They've given up 29.6 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards over the last 5 games. They did give up 46 to Kyle Lowry just 2 games ago. So again, just due to the usage and with KD out, you must have some consideration for Steph Curry. Other than that, I mean, you can always consider the Knickerbocker players. My Knickerbocker players, the only thing is you just never know. Dennis Smith Jr. has been starting. Moutier's been coming off the bench since coming back from injury. And the last game, Moutier shot well. Dennis Smith didn't play particularly well. The first unit didn't particularly play well. The second unit did, other than Mitchell Robinson. And obviously Mitchell Robinson is from the second unit as well, but he played more than enough minutes. He's the only one you could probably count on the Knicks, so it's really, really tough with David Fizdale on how he utilizes these players. But Moutier and Smith would be options for you guys if you wanted to go that route. I think Moutier would probably be more appealing to me because he's 5,900. Other than Moutier, you definitely have guys. Obviously, you got to have some sort of consideration for Rose or Tyus Jones because there's no Jeff Teague. So at the moment, if Jeff Teague is going to be out, Derrick Rose and Jones will be definitely options. I do like Jamal Murray in this matchup against Utah just simply because, hey, Utah more than likely is going to be without Ricky Rubio. If Rubio is out, I definitely like the doors that it opens for Murray at home, who shoots very, very well at home. Jamal Murray at home is shooting over 43% from the floor, as opposed he's actually shooting about 7% better from the floor at home than he does on the road. So, and we've discussed that here before, that he's always a good option at home, and he's a good GPP play, which is what I do. I love to play GPPs. He's in a great GPP spot here to smash at 6,800, pretty much on DK 6,200. You need 31 there, 34 on FanDuel. And again, like I said, with no Rubio there, if he is out, I definitely like Murray here as a possible sneaky play at 6,800. Other than that, like I said, Moutier, you got to consider Rose or Jones if Jeff Teague is out. Colin Sexton versus the Knicks is not a bad option at 5,000. The Knicks have been giving up 34.7 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards as of late, so that is an option. You also have DJ Augustin here at 4,800 versus Golden State. An option as well. Golden State, 35.4 fantasy points per game as of the last 5 games to opposing point guards is an option there as well. Dragic at 4,100 is definitely someone to consider as well. Let's go to shooting guard. As shooting guard, obviously at the top, I definitely like, with no Ricky Rubio, you got to consider Donovan Mitchell. There's no doubt about it. He is 9,000, a little pricey here on FanDuel. You need 45 to meet value. On DK, though, he is only $8,000. You need 40 there. That is much more reasonable. I will have exposure to him on DK. Maybe just very little here. If I can find room to put him in here, I would definitely put him in on FanDuel, but I definitely do love his price on DraftKings. Donovan Mitchell, 43 plus pretty much in 3 out of his last 5 games. A little choppy with the scoring as of late, but we know he's been, look at that, 50 and 55, 50 pretty much a 56 spots in 2 out of the last 4 games. So he is someone that's very, very tough. The beauty also with Donovan Mitchell also is, for one, he's when Ricky Rubio is off the floor, he gets a crazy usage bump as well, about 8-9%. And on top of that, I calculated the games that Rubio was out and he played. He averaged nearly 50 fantasy points per game in those games while he was gone. He actually had 3 50-point games during that stretch of the 7-8 games that Rubio missed. And he had also a 61-spot game as well. So Donovan Mitchell, very much capable of putting up 50 to 60 fantasy points with no Ricky Rubio when he's handling the ball as much as he does when Ricky Rubio's on the floor. When he's not on the floor, they pretty much put him in at the point guard spot, and for whatever reason, he just excels with assists, with just scoring in general. He just fills up the stat sheet at that point in time. So I definitely like Donovan Mitchell. He is definitely someone you must consider. In 2 games versus Denver this year, he's only shooting 40% field goal percentage, 35% from 3. Has had 3.5 steals on average per game in those 2 games with 1 block, averaging 25 points per game and 48 fantasy points per game. So just a 48 fantasy point average already against Denver is definitely, he's already in a good spot here already. Denver, number 1 versus shooting guards, allowing only 23.4 fantasy points per game, but I'm not going to worry about that. They did give up 36 to Buddy Hield just 4 games ago. So he is definitely someone that you must have some exposure to. Other than that, I do like Jimmy B here more so than I would like Simmons with Embiid out. Jimmy Butler is another guy that gets a good bump. He gets about what I have here. He gets a 5.5, almost 6% usage bump with no Joel Embiid on the floor. He's just not hitting enough shots to get it done as far as fantasy points are concerned. That's the biggest problem with Jimmy B. But at 8,300, he's definitely an option. You need about 41, 42 to meet value on DK. Definitely love him on DK, man. 7,100. You cannot go wrong with Jimmy Butler at 7,100. You only need 35 to meet value, and he's averaging 37. So, I mean, Jimmy Butler is definitely someone you must have in your consideration for your lineups on DraftKings. Numbers have been a little up and down. His numbers haven't been great. But, again, with the choppiness, it's all a matter of that he's getting more than enough shots. He's just not burying them at a high percentage rate. If he's able to do that, he could be very, very dangerous here today. Versus OKC this year, he's had a 38 spot, which he did back on January the 19th. Didn't shoot particularly well in that game. He shot 5 of 18. Again, that's just been his problem is not burying those shots consistently. And he shot 6 threes in that game, and he only hit 1. So he really didn't shoot particularly well at all against OKC the last time. But he defensively did have in those games 2 steals and 2 blocks. Did still put up 18 points from the floor. OKC 15th in defending shooting guards, allowing 32.6 fantasy points per game. They did give up 49 to Hield and 50 to Mitchell. So I do feel that Jimmy Butler is in a position that he can possibly get you 45, 50. I think we all know he is capable of getting you 50 or better. Other than that, you got to also consider Klay Thompson, man. At this point in time, with KD out, I just finished telling you, he gets a bump in usage as well. He gets a 9% bump. When I checked him out, I looked him up really quickly. 9% bump when KD is off the floor. He's been shooting really, really well. So at 7,200, you must consider Klay Thompson. So you got a couple options there. 7,200, you need 36. On DK, 6,500, you need 32. He's had 36 plus in his last 4 games. He's been playing 36 plus minutes and averaging 34 fantasy points per game or more in 4 out of the last 5 games. He's had also 3 straight games where he has put up at least 20 points from the floor. And his usage, like I said, is up, and it will be slightly up, almost 9% with KD on the floor tonight, possibly. I think him and Steph Curry, or one of the two, you must definitely consider in your lineup, as well as his splits away from home have been really, really good as well. 46% field goal percentage, 39% from 3. He's averaging 21.5 points per game and 34 fantasy points per game. He did have one game versus Orlando where he shot 48% from the floor, 50% from 3, had 29 points and 43 fantasy points. This was earlier in the year. This was a game that there was no Steph Curry. Both him and KD were the top dogs. They both played very, very well that time around. This time around, it's going to have to be him and Steph. I still like it. So keep in mind that one big game that he had was with no Steph Curry. All right, but I still do like the matchup with him as well as Steph getting busy here tonight. So Klay Thompson is definitely an option. Let me just, there's other guys that I'm also considering here, but I'll make this video very, very long, and that's been my problem. So we're going to move on to small forward. There are options down here that I do like as well, but I think those guys, you got 3 good guys there that you could definitely take advantage of. As small forward, obviously I was going to go with KD tonight, but that's out of the question now. Paul George, it was definitely a nice second in this matchup as far as small forwards for tonight's slate. But with those 2 guys out now, you got to go to the next guy, and definitely Josh Richardson is not in a bad position at 6,400. You need 32 to meet value. On DK, he's 5,700. You need pretty much 27 on DK. I circled him on DK. I like that price at him for 27. He's averaging 30 already, so he's definitely in a good spot to be a cash play, even though I'm a GPP player. I look at that, and I look at the factors that he has 4 fantasy points pretty much below price on DK. You got to at least throw him in there. He has GPP upside where he can get you almost 40, 45. So that would be a smashing, exceeding value situation for me. So I definitely would consider him, especially there ain't much that I like here in the small forward spot here today without no Paul George and as well as no Kevin Durant. But he's playing more than enough minutes. I mean, his minutes are there, 32 pretty much plus all the way through the last 5 or 6 games. He's had 221 point games or better, as you can see there. Usage rate is still at 21% when I took a look at it. He's still taking 14, 15 shots a game. He's capable of hitting you some threes. And the last 2 games versus Houston, he did put up 41 and 47, so he's had success in his last 2 outings against the Houston Rockets. The very last game, he shot 47% against them from the floor, 33% from 3, did have 22 points from the floor and 41 fantasy points. Houston is 14th in defending small forwards, allowing 34.3, one of the areas that they're the most vulnerable at right now as far as fantasy points are concerned. They did give up 43 to Kevin Durant and 53 to LeBron James. Of course, those guys are 2 monsters of the midway here as far as small forwards are concerned in the league, so you can't compare them. But it does leave me to believe that he has a shot to get that 35 to 40 possible, the 35-40 spot that I'm really looking for. Other than him, I mean, you have to consider J.J. Redick here a little bit more so now with no Paul George. I mean, you know, he opens up the doors with him. He does get a little slight bump, only about 1% more when Embiid is off the floor. So J.J. Redick could be a possible nice play. He's very steady, good cash play player. So he's definitely an option. You always can consider some of the Knicks players. The only thing is you just never know. Kevin Knox can have a really, really good game, and he can have a really bad game. Cedi Osman is definitely someone to consider at 5,200 going up against the Knicks. Knicks only giving up 28 fantasy points per game to opposing small forwards as of late, so it's not like they've been really vulnerable there, but it is a game that is going to be competitive, and I can see Cleveland and New York going all the way to the wire. So Cedi has an opportunity here as well. I do also like the 2 Denver guys, Willie Barton as well as Gary Harris. There's going to be a point with Gary Harris. He's going to play more than 22, 23 minutes. Hopefully it could be tonight. If he gets 25 to 26, I will love it. I think I am going to sprinkle him. I'm going to have some exposure to Gary Harris at 4,600. He is definitely still pretty cheap, but we want to see those minutes go up. I always try to wait and see that I see the players getting 28 or 29, 30 or more, especially when you're paying almost close to $5,000 for them. You want to at least see 25 minutes or better. So Gary Harris could be an option. Obviously, Royce O'Neal is in play. If there happens to be no Ricky Rubio, Royce O'Neal usually gets a bump in minutes. He usually gets some playing time. So he is an option at 4,200, all right? All right, let's just move on, or not, I'll be here longer than I need to be. At power forward, at the top, we got Millsap, Kevin Love. I do think I will have a little exposure to Kevin Love, but I love Tobias Harris here because somebody's going to have to rebound and score some points for Philadelphia up front against OKC. I do like the OKC players on the other side, Mr. Grant, Jeremy Grant, as well as Steven Adams. I think those guys are going to probably not be high on people's radars, and I think those are guys that you definitely should have some sort of consideration or exposure to. But Harris is definitely in play at 7,500. You need 37 to meet value. On DK, he's 7,300, so he's priced about the same. Obviously, his price looks a lot more appealing on FanDuel. For 7,500, you need 36, 37 pretty much on both platforms to meet value, and he is capable of getting it done. 34-plus minutes pretty much over the last 5 games or so. He's had 34-plus in 5 out of his last 6 games, and we know he has 50-point upside, so we know he can definitely get you 50, 55 on a good night. As you can see, he's been really good. Last 4 games, 20 floor points or better, as high as 29, and he's had 2 double-doubles during the course of that stretch as well. His usage rate is still up there, 20 to 21% on average. Will be a slight bump in there with no Embiid. It has been trickling upward, at least by a percentage or 2 over the last few games with Embiid out. He's still taking more than enough shots. He actually takes about 6 or 7 threes a game. and he hits them at about a 45-50% clip. He's a good free throw shooter, can get you some rebounds, and that's what we're going to need him the most. The one thing to bring today is to bring the rebounding and, of course, some blocking skills. As you can see, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's had 5 blocks over the course of the last 5 games as well. His home and away splits on the road this year, 58% field goal percentage. That's another reason why I put a check mark next to him. 32% from 3, averaging 25 points per game and 42 fantasy points per game. 3 games versus OKC this year, not all of them with Philadelphia. 51% field goal percentage from the floor, 31% from 3, averaging 9 rebounds against his team, 21 points per game, and 37 fantasy points per game. OKC comes in here 28th in defending power forwards, allowing 28.6, which is not a huge number, fantasy points per game over the course of the last 5 games. As you guys know, I don't go any further back than that. 31 recently to Millsap and 46 to Favors. These 2 guys over the course of the last 3 games. So, again, Tobias Harris is definitely someone to consider. Other than that, like I said, Kevin Love will be an option for me as well going up against New York, especially if you can get 30 minutes or better out of Kevin Love. I think that will be a nice smash spot for Kevin Love. Other than that, you got to consider Thaddeus Young. No Sabonis. Young obviously gets a bump in usage, minutes, and shots, and opportunity to be on the floor and get more fantasy points. He's definitely someone to consider. He's had 31 plus in 3 out of his last 4 games. And then, like I said, down here in the bottom tier, I do like Jeremy Grant in the matchup against Philly. 5,800. You need 28 from him. Philly's been giving up pretty much almost 30 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards. And then we got Bam Adebayo. Adebayo here, Bam is going to more than likely start again. If there's no Whiteside, it's going to be Bam. And if Bam is in there, he's in a position that you got to have some exposure to him at 4,800. So he will be someone that I will be considering. You can always consider some of these guys down here, Cornette, Ellison. You just don't know with Coach Fizdale and the New York Knicks. So it's tough to gauge. I mean, Ellison or Cornette is definitely you're playing Russian roulette there. Mike Scott, obviously, will be getting some minutes as well. No Embiid. He's the one who's been getting the chunk of the minutes, but he's just not getting enough rebounding. He doesn't make enough. He doesn't do enough blocking. He doesn't do enough. I think he's just basically is more of a scorer than anything else. But if he can go out there and get himself dirty and get himself to be a little more physical under the boards and get some rebounds and do some of that dirty work, it may pan out to be a good play. But at 4,500, he's definitely someone to consider. Other than that, you got also, other than Scott, you got to also consider Jonah Bolden. Bolden was more than likely is going to start and play. At 3,900, you only need 18, 19 from him. If he's playing 20 minutes or better, I think he'll be able to get you that 18, 19 that you need. So he's definitely a nice drop spot play here. More than likely will be starting, so he is someone to consider. We go over to center, and at center, man, it's pretty easy. I mean, at the top, you could go either or with Towns or Jokic. I think Towns is in a better position. I think he's going to be able to muscle around a little bit. Miles Turner, he brings a little bit more to the floor where he's also very capable of spreading the floor a little bit. He's a good three-point shooter as a big man, and he's a good perimeter shooter. So Towns could be someone that will be a better. Now, granted, both of these guys got similar styles. Jokic could do the same thing. I think that Utah with Gobert, a little bit of a tougher matchup. So Towns would be someone to consider. I do like Vucevic here against Golden State versus Cousins. I think that's going to be a tough position for Cousins. It's going to be tough on Vooch, but I think Vucevic definitely has the upper hand, so I will have some exposure possibly to Vucevic. But I'm going to go with my boy from the New York Knicks, Mitchell Robinson. I told you guys yesterday, you got to play Mitchell Robinson. You got to consider him because he goes on the floor and he defends, he goes and gets blocks, and that's what we're looking for in daily fantasy sports. We want to be able to get as many fantasy point totals as we can, and he's a kid that gets it done. I mean, Robinson is coming in 7,400. Price tag is going up. We know that, but he's playing very, very well. 6,400 on DK, you need 32. 7,400 on FanDuel, you need 37. He's averaging 22. But as you can see, when we go and click on him here, he's pretty much, his numbers have been great. 30 to 32 minutes in the last 2 games, 2 double-doubles in a row. And look at this, 6-5, 11 blocks in those last 2 games. He's had 22 blocks over the last 5. I just stopped right here. That's 22 blocks in the last 5 games. That's 66 fantasy points. 66 fantasy points from blocks, ladies and gentlemen. All right? And he doesn't turn over the ball, man. So you're not losing a whole lot of fantasy points from him when he's doing all of this. He does what a big man should be doing all the dirty work. He's getting the rebounds. He's getting some blocks, and that's what we need him to do. Get the little easy putbacks. Get the little alley-oops. and he's getting it done. The kid is playing. I mean, I was checking him out last night. He had blocks like in the open floor, 22, 25 feet from the floor. He is challenging shooters, 3-point shots. He challenged. I think he blocked 2 shots in the 3-point range last night. Mitchell Robinson. And I mean, hey, Coach Fizdale, you got yourself a nice little player there, the guy you could build from. Definitely keep this kid playing. He's playing 30 to 32 minutes the last 2 games that hopefully they'll keep him playing 30 minutes or better and let him get all this experience and put him in position that he'll be ready to go as a full-time center for this team next year. So again, I do like Mitchell Robinson here. There's nothing not to like from what he has done. Obviously, we can't gauge on what he did against Cleveland earlier in the year because he hasn't played a whole lot. He did play recently on the 11th, and he played only 24 minutes in that game. Did have 10 points, 8 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 blocks, 30 fantasy points against this team the last time they played 2.5 weeks ago. Cleveland, 7th in defending centers, allowing 34.4 fantasy points per game over the course of the last 5 games. They did give up 44 to Valanciunas and 49 to Jarrett Allen. So Mitchell Robinson definitely is in a good spot to get it done here today. All right. And like I said, those are the other guys, the only guys that I'm looking at. I do think that Steven Adams could be a very sneaky, quiet play here. I don't think people are going to be on Steven Adams. So Steven Adams would be someone to consider. Remember, Philadelphia is going to be vulnerable up front. Yeah, this is an opportunity for Steven Adams to dominate, not only getting as many rebounds as he can, but he's be able to also maybe get a couple blocks because he's going to go up against guys like Bolden and Mike Scott, and I just think that that's a great spot for him and Jeremy Grant. And granted, it's a great spot for Tobias Harris to do as much rebounding as he can. So it definitely benefits both teams. As a fantasy player, I definitely look at areas like that. So at 6,800, he is definitely someone to consider. You need 34, and on DK, he is 6,300. You need 31. So should get tons of rebounds. Steven Adams here, if he can stay off of not getting into foul trouble. And that's pretty much it. That's where I'm at for today, ladies and gentlemen. So I wish you guys a lot of luck, man. Please drop a like on the video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'll be doing Major League Baseball very, very soon. So a lot coming the way here. So if you are planning to do MLB, definitely stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed as of yet, make sure you do that so that you can be able to get the Major League Baseball videos as well. Other than that, that's pretty much it, man. I wish you guys a lot of luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.